it's a really bad strat.
Sick life. All right, boys, it's 7 o'clock. So I think we should get the show on the road. Although, now that you've zoomed in so far, Dred, now my little box...
Oh, I can zoom it out. I can zoom it out. I'm sorry.
just a tad.
All right, hold on. This is worst case scenario. We trained for this moment and it failed us.
Just like, ah!
I think that's reset.
Yeah. Your cam doesn't look amazing, but again, we think we've solved that case with the... You're from America.
To NA, dude. The struggle.
EU to NA. Amazing.
It's getting slowly better.
Yeah, slowly.
Is it? Okay, that's good.
I suppose so. All right, here we go, boys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to State of the Nexus. This is episode 1 of what we hope to be many, many weeks of future entertainment here for the meta forecast, or forecasting the storm, as Snitch would like to say, with another one of his names that he came up with for the show, which was terrible. I'm Kaelaris, and we have a few people already here for episode 1. I'm going to go down the list, and they're going to introduce themselves, and they're going to tell you who they are. We have Mr. Bakery. How are you doing, sir? And who are you? Revealing yourself.
I'm doing very well, thanks. I'm Bakery. I'm the support and team captain for Team Dignitas. We just won the European Regional in Katowice, and secured ourselves a spot in the Global Championship in Seoul. That's about it, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose that works. And then, of course, down below me, we have Mr. Dr. Dred. How are you doing, man? Tell everybody who you are. Even Dr. Dred is fine. I'm okay with that.
I am Dreadnought. I'm pretty much, I don't know if you, do I hold the title of caster now? I guess, maybe. I guess you'll go with caster now, but I'm an ex-professional. I was team captain and shot caller of Tempo Storm for the past year and a half in SMG before that. And other than that, I'm now a caster, pretty much.
Yeah, you have earned that title because you have earned Dirty Caster money. But then, I'm coming to the next person who's also earned Dirty Caster money in the past. We have Mr. HasuObs. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm fine, thanks for the invite. As you said, I'm HasuObs. I'm the range assassin player / specialist for My Insanity. And we lost to Team Bakery in the final, in the EU regional, so...
Oh, don't call him Team Bakery. He'll get a bigger head than he already has.
Ah, yes, that's true. You're right.
I quite like the name.
Yeah, I figured you would. All right, let's get on to our first topic. Of course, EU Regional Katowice has just occurred. Many of us were there. In fact, all 4 of us were there. And it was a lot of fun, bar the production issues that we did have. But let's not really kind of harp on about those. We are here to talk about the games, and we are here to talk about Bakery and Hasu initially moving on to Korea. So guys, moving on to Korea now, like, what are your thoughts about that? Like, obviously you must be ecstatic, but like, considering the teams that are already going to be there, like, how do you guys foresee this going?
I'll let Hasu take this one first.
Okay, so let's see, where do I start? Like today we actually talked about when we start to bootcamp again. And it will be very soon, and it will be in Switzerland again. Mm-hmm. So in the My Insanity house, and then from there on we will fly to Korea. And I mean, our group is not final yet. We don't know exactly who's coming, but we can somewhat, like, we know the seeding, so we probably know who's going to be there. And we will obviously watch as many games as we can from them, so we can learn the drafting and the meta, because it differs from region to region. And I think it's Korea Seed 2, Taiwan Seed 1, and like South America Seed 1 or something. And I guess the Koreans are the favorites in our group, but as 2 teams will advance, I think we will make it out of the first group stage. And yeah, that's it so far, I think. Like, as I said, we haven't practiced yet, but we will start very, very soon again, and we will go to a boot camp, so it will be very hardcore once more.
It seems like your practice did really well for you, like, kind of like leading up to Katowice at least. I did. You're able to take the first series off of Team Bakery, and then, of course, like, moving forwards, you know, it didn't go so well in the finals and stuff like that. But do you feel confident that a similar boot camp can do well, especially in the first group stage?
I think so. I think it was a big factor that we actually made it that far in Katowice. So it's a very good idea to do it again. And like I hope we find enough practice partners. That's the only concern I have right now, because I expect that when we start to look for scrims again, a lot of the European teams that didn't make it far in Katowice are disbanding or like swapping out players again. So that's the only concern I have. That's why we also consider to maybe bootcamp in Korea.
Yeah.
But it's just too much of a short notice for us. Like we asked some Korean teams, because if we go there, we want to make sure that we have a training partner. And I don't know, it was just too hard to figure out in the next, like in this week or whatever. So we just decided we go to Switzerland again and do what we know, and then I think it will be fine anyways.
And how about on your side, Bakery?
We had a very similar kind of process to Hasu. We initially wanted to try and bootcamp in Korea as well, but it just turned out not to be as safe as we would have liked. I think it was going to be very risky because we might not have found scrims, and the place might have been not very good, and we might have not been able to get accounts and stuff. So it was just too many risks. So we did the same. We decided to bootcamp over here in Europe instead. In terms of our group, I'd say we feel pretty okay. We're obviously in the second group stage, so we're going to have the number 1 seed from Korea. I'm going to have 2 random winners from the initial group stage. So my predictions are 2 of EDG, Naventic, My Insanity, and TNL, which is my prediction for the Korean seed number 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So we feel pretty okay about that group, I think. Like, I feel like we can probably beat the Chinese scene, because with proper preparation, I feel like you can probably draft around their hyper-aggressive style, and I don't think they'll be that great at the other parts. And what we are really good at in Dignitas is controlling the map and team fights. And those are the 2 things that I feel like we need to beat China. And obviously we could get Naventic, which I would feel pretty confident about. And we also could get MII, which we've already shown is a very nuanced matchup between the 2 teams, but I feel like we could possibly make it out of that group as well.
Are you not worried about E-Star from China? Is that not something that kind of worries you a bit?
I mean, they're in the other group.
I mean, like, oh, okay, yeah, but down the line, like, you're saying that you can deal with China or whatever, but, like, is E-Star something that's not, like, a huge threat as well?
We can deal with the rest of China, other than E-Star, because they are nowhere near as clean. But E-Star's game is very streamlined. So E-Star is definitely something I'm worried about. I expect to see E-Star MVP Black be the favorites at the event. So we're definitely scared of E-Star, but the rest of China, I don't think it'd be too big an issue.
Dread, from a pro player's perspective, how much do you get to like study E-Star? I don't want to like harp on too much because we're deviating away from the topics. But have you been able to see E-Star much at all?
I haven't gotten to see them as much as I would like. I actually, there is a little bit of sweet study you can get with the foreign teams. There's like these like top secret like YouTubes that are like in completely foreign language that like actually have some of the videos once in a while you can get a hold of. But like, it's hard to get foreign regions, specifically China is like the hardest to get a hold of without a doubt. But it's interesting to see like Bakery's approach, I guess, to China, because I kind of agree with them. I think draft is going to be really crucial when facing China specifically. It's going to be crucial in all matchups, but China, I think, is going to be the most important for EU versus China matchup.
Oh well, it's going to be interesting for sure. As Bakery said, like E-Star is a little bit further on down the line. If you were to come out of your group, Hasu, do you know which group you go into? Sorry, is it Group A or B?
It's random.
I think
it's random.
I don't. Yeah, I think it's random, and to be honest, I don't care actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair play. Well, let's kind of bring a focus back onto Europe and the spring regional that went. Cause I didn't really anticipate moving on to Korea too much just yet or whatever. But there's a few things that I want to talk about besides the fact that we had Dignitas and My Insanity moving on. And one of the things that I have already listed was, and I dubbed it the Navi crash. Because it didn't quite work out for them throughout that. And a lot of people were looking at them as, you know, one of the favorites to actually do very, very well in Katowice. So what do you guys kind of attribute to Navi not really performing as well as it did, or should have done potentially?
I think the expectations were a bit too high because everyone is remembering the old Navi 10-0 or something at the Euro Regionals last year. And then they thought, yeah, well, it's Navi again, so of course they're going to make it out of the group. But it's not that simple because they swapped out players a lot, and they even did it right before Katowice. I think Dikozoy for, wait, who? I think Donathan got in, right? Last minute, or like,
Donathan.
not
Yeah,
last minute, but like,
Donathan.
like a week before or something. And that, of course, hurts the team. I think it's hard. You have to get used to it. Like, you need the same mindset to compete in Heroes, and if you don't know someone that well, it will be not as fluent as before. So I think that was a big part that they were swapping out players a lot.
I mean, go on, Bakery.
I honestly think the demise was kind of overstated. I think they were actually a top 4 team at the event. I think if they were in Group B, in place of one of the teams that didn't make it, so maybe Liquid, then they would have made it out of that group. Maybe even first seed out of that group. Like, the issue is they played us, and the games were pretty one-sided. They played Epsilon, and they very easily beat Epsilon. The MYI struggled against in the first game, remember? And then they played us again, and they lost. So, of the sample size, the only thing we know is that they're worse than Dignitas. And they're far ahead of Epsilon. Like, I still believe that they were a top 4 team at that event. And I don't think it's as bad as everyone's making it out to be.
Right.
However, I do think they made some really bad choices with their roster. As HasuObs was saying, I think swapping out their 5th player for weeks and weeks, kind of at the end, like in the run-up to Katowice, was a terrible decision. And I feel like the choice they made in terms of Donathan was actually not considerably weaker, but I think Dikozoy would have fit the team better and performed better at the event.
I mean, looking at the games, Dread, you were like either watching them or casting them alongside. How much of that was like? How much of that really was decided in the drafts? Because we were pretty critical of the drafts. I want to say.
I would say Navi like for me when it's like the falling out of Navi, I think like both the points brought up by Hasu and Bakery are actually really relevant. But I think for me what it looked like was just false positives. And whatever training they did, they chose the wrong team or something where they didn't have a team that forced them to learn diversity. They learned a couple of strategies that were good, and they were just ruining their opponent, but didn't realize that like when it comes to a more skilled team or something else, like their drafts seem very like, because they kept doing the same thing, right? So it's like, I very much feel like they understood what they thought was very good, but they got a lot of false positives in their training, and it really hurt them. That's what it looked like from a viewer perspective, because I do agree with you guys that like the roster swaps definitely hurt them, but at the same time, Navi, when I asked every team there who were the top 2 teams they feared, Navi was the most consistently named team.
Right.
Then across the board, Navi was the biggest one. Then Fnatic was hit or miss, Liquid was hit or miss. Navi was the only one that kept showing.
That makes sense, Bakery?
Yeah, I mean, Navi and Fnatic were the 2 teams that we would have said. And here's the thing, is in scrims, they were so clean in their early game and in their draft. Like, I don't think they ever looked weak in a game that we played against them in scrims. And I do agree with what Dredd said. I think a lot of their picks, especially the Chen pick, was based off, hey, we keep winning with this. Like, must be great, right?
And it seems so forced.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. The Chen just seems so forced. That was the false positive that I thought, is they just saw Beryl suddenly winning them games, and they're like, so Chen is the new hot. Let's just pick it in every draft. And then it was like, and then even afterwards, they came up to me. They were trying to be like, Dredd, like this is a really good comp. And it's like, I don't totally disagree. Like I think Chen Falstad, the double disengage, it has a spot. It's just not where they forced it.
Yeah, we saw that a lot. I mean, individually, when you look at Navi's roster, I think there is like massive skill there, right? I mean, Alex the Pro G, very strong tank. Eternal, I've always kind of like praised him for his assassin abilities, and then you got people like Grand Paquette, who I would argue is a very good support over maybe even someone here. No, he's good though. Grand Paquette is definitely good and has been for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hop on this point quickly, and I don't mean to flame, but I feel like Navi's players were actually like an overrated strong point for them. Coming into this event, we know Alex is probably the best tank in Europe right now.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Grand Paquette is, I would say, top 2. Many would say top 1. And we know that Eternal is, many would say top 2.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that in Israel. And so they have 3 like top players. But I feel like they were really let down by their ranged assassins. I feel like both of them weren't very used to LAN environment, and both of them did not show up to the level that they needed.
No, makes sense. It was a little bit of a shame for them, but I agree with the points that you brought up, Bakery, of like they did technically. I mean, throughout the group stage, they technically got knocked out by the tournament victor in the end. So it's kind of rough overall. So do you think they would have done better if they'd have been in the other group? Do you think they would have been top 4 if they'd have been in the other group, or do you think it's like more competition still?
Wait, who was it in the other group that went out? Virtus and Fnatic?
Yeah, Virtus and Fnatic made it out.
Yeah.
Liquid and Reason were the 2 others.
I think Fnatic was stronger than Navi for sure that weekend.
I agree.
I cannot really judge the other matchups. I think Virtus had a huge momentum boost when they made it, but before that I would have said Navi for sure is stronger than them, but it's hard to call afterwards, I don't know.
Oh,
But obviously, they lost, as you said, they lost twice to Dignitas, so if they are not in the group with Dignitas, there's a high chance that they will perform better, so
yeah.
it would have been probably better for them if they are Group B.
Yeah, a little bit of a shame, I suppose, in the end, for sure. So let's get into more specifics about what we actually saw here from the Katowice regional. So I wanted to first focus on, especially since we have Hasu here from My Insanity, I wanted to focus on Cho'gall, his place in the meta right now, because it's actually, compared to other MOBAs, obviously they don't get the opportunity to actually see, or team brawlers, we don't get opportunity to see a hero like this, especially one that actually has an impact on the meta right now in the way Cho'gall does, because it is a bit of a weird thing. So, first, got to ask you guys, really how successful was it at this current tournament? And then beyond that, like, how much success can it have still in the meta? What is its place right now? So, anybody wants to go?
I think you have to respect it. Like in the current meta. I think you have to respect Cho'gall. And, I mean, in Katowice, it wasn't that successful. I think it had a rather low win rate, but it had a lot of bans as well. So it means people understood. In some cases, he's very dangerous. And I think that's exactly what... Like, that's fine, I think. That's how Cho'gall is. Like, you have to respect him in some drafts. If you don't, you're gonna get crushed.
Cho'gall was picked up pretty recently by most teams. Like, I'd say about 2 weeks before the event. And I feel like some teams, they picked it up and they went, okay, we'll play that at the event. Let's not show it in any more scrims. Let's not practice it anymore. We know how to play it. But in the week before the event at the boot camp, we as a team, I feel like many others as well, went from having a basic understanding of Cho'gall to having a much better one. Like, something we picked up was a noob. Most teams at that event didn't know how hard a noob counted Cho'gall. Or at least they didn't pick it. Because every time that we saw Cho'gall in the last few days of our boot camp, we picked the noob and we won the game. Like, we didn't lose with a noob against Cho'gall. So, I feel like the teams that did that and they said, okay, let's not show any more of Cho'gall, let's not let them counter it. The teams that did that actually had a pretty big disadvantage because of how much the meta developed in that last week.
I think it comes down to a lot of respecting him in specific drafts, like it was brought up. I think that's absolutely crucial to his success. I think on certain maps he can be a terror right now. But like I said, every region has looked at him to some extent. So obviously, he definitely has some kind of value. But I don't know if he's going to be. He's very much a hero that is dependent on the current meta, I think. I don't think he's universally going to be a very strong hero. He's very much reliant on, like, he's kind of like Illidan in the sense that he depends on other heroes that are good with him to be relevant enough to be picked or high in the draft. And if that doesn't exist, I think Cho'Gall's viability slowly falls off. And for right now, he's in a spot where he is a large threat in the meta, but I don't know how long it's going to last.
I mean, you, Hasu, your team puts quite a bit of confidence behind him. I think probably even more so than any other European team right now. Is there like specific reasons for this? Like, do you guys think that it can work in like any comp? Like, what do you think?
No, not in any comp. My teammates are crazy. That's why they wanted to start with Cho'Gall, and then first of all, I thought it's not gonna work at all because no one was playing it, and the first scrims with Cho'Gall also felt pretty bad. But the more we tried it and the more we theory crafted, we found certain picks that work very well with him. And that was the first step to make him viable for us. And then I guess what Bakery said is actually very important, that the teams at first had no idea how to play against Cho'Gall. Even if we drafted it very early, it was still, they picked some random stuff and they lost. But the more practice they had against it, and especially the more they respected it, so they thought about what is good against Cho'Gall, the harder it got. So at this point, I think, or in Katowice, I think every team knew how to play against it, or maybe not every, but they had a decent understanding how to play against it. But some teams that drafted Cho'Gall, I felt didn't really understand when you should draft him or with what characters you need to draft him with. So there were some Cho'Gall drafts, I had no idea what happened there or why they picked Cho'Gall, but it actually happened. And so yeah, that's basically the story for Katowice. And I think, as Dreadnought also said, like for example, I think Rega is super important for Cho'Gall with a shield on 13, and in general, Rega is a good support for Cho'Gall. So, like, if he drops off, then Cho'Gall obviously will drop off as well.
Is Rega in that point where he is going to be dropping off now? Like, do you think that there will be more coming along?
I don't think he's as good as Monk right now. So Monk got buffed pretty hard in the early game.
Yeah.
Like, Monk just got a straight up buff. Once he hits 16, his healing's like 15% higher than it was before. Like 7 to 16, it's like it's pretty much the same. He misses like literally 1% healing. And then before 7, he's like 10%, like 8% up. So he just got a straight up buff. At Katowice, I preferred playing Monk. I think he enabled almost just as much. The only thing he didn't enable as well was obviously the Cho'Gall. And Rhaegar, with the 100-second cooldown Ancestral, was a very punishable. There was a lot of windows to punish Rhaegar. And you could do it either by bursting through before the Ancestral lands, or just baiting the Ancestral, disengaging, and then fighting again with all of your cooldowns, which were up like 70 seconds later, and he's still got 30 seconds on Ancestral, so he can't fight.
Come on, Dread, weigh in.
I mean, I don't totally disagree. I thought that Rhaegar's been kind of a little bit over prioritized. I think Uther is one of the most undervalued heroes in the game right now, especially when it comes to North America and Europe. I think that because of that, then Rhaegar gains a little bit more prioritization, but I think it's way too high. Only post-nerf. I think pre-nerf, he was without a doubt the best hero in the game. He was all in the right spot. Then post-nerf, I think he's one of the most... I think he's a second ban phase. I don't think he's in the first 5 picks of the games almost ever, unless you have a really heavy pairing that you absolutely need and know you're going to be able to get later after the second ban phase. But I do think Rhaegar is over-prioritized. I do agree that I think Kharazim was buffed and definitely going to be in a better spot than he was. I don't know if I'm going to, I don't know if I feel comfortable enough without seeing more scrims, where each one falls perfectly. I think they're all kind of pretty close on footing, but I think the lack of Uther in all the other regions is part of the reason that Rhaegar is such, a dominant force. He is good, obviously, but I think he's overvalued, for sure.
We saw Uther a few times, like 2 or 3 times maybe during Katowice, but certainly not.
I think I played him twice.
Yeah, yeah. That was when you were getting kind of forced out of it against MYI, I believe, right?
Yeah. Well, I got denied Monk and they had the Vega, so
Yeah.
ended up with Uther.
Yeah.
That was a pretty simple strategy, actually. If you, in the first 3 picks, you get one of the supports, either Monk or Rega, and then you just ban the other one if they were greedy and didn't pick it in the first rotation.
Yeah. So now, I mean, going back to the Cho'gall thing, obviously, like, yes, he still has his place if ever the enablers are there and things like that. Let's go to game 2 of My Insanity versus Dignitas, because that draft itself was something that is particularly interesting. And firstly, I want to ask you, Bakery, is this something that you had thought about before the tournament, or is this something that had come up during the tournament? Because it was cool.
So this is something that we prepared in our now infamous 3-hour session before the first day.
Right.
And we'd worked through all the scenarios, and we worked through how we would do it. Because the idea of a Cho'gall bait we'd mentioned like maybe a week ago, like at the start of the boot camp, but we'd never worked it out. So we worked through all the ways that we could do it. We worked out Lyric first ban, and then take a snipe comp was the best way to do it, and that would force them to take the Cho'gall.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we get it, we have a snipe comp, which gives us the early game pressure that you need on that map, and we also have Cho'gall. So we have insane structure poking, we have insane clear, and we have insane immortal poking. So there's no way we could lose with that comp, we felt like. And then when they take it, there's no way they can win because they have no early game pressure, they're going to lose every immortal, and they're going to lose structures. And we still have so much kill potential that they can't even walk up to us. And as we saw, that's what happened. So yeah, that was something we definitely prepared, and using it in the finals maybe wasn't the wisest idea, because if Cho'gall was still in the meta, that would have been a pretty free win at Korea. But that's the first time we've ever played with it, but it was planned in advance, definitely.
And Hasu being on the receiving end of that, I mean, how does that feel considering that position? Because it's not the best, obviously.
So when they banned Leoric, actually we talked about that they want us to pick Cho'gall, but on the other hand we were like, we will do it. So we also see what they have chosen to do against it, and what they did I think is very, very strong. Even though like after the game when we lost, I felt Dignitas draft was super good against Cho'gall, but some of my teammates said it was like us screwing up and they playing better, which maybe is also true. I think we could have played it better, but I feel their draft is very, very strong, because what happens is they have Muradin, ETC, Tyrande, Jaina, and whatever the 5th pick was, I cannot remember, but what will happen is one of the warriors will stun Cho'gall once, and then he starts to body block either Muradin or ETC, and then while Cho'gall is using his Q to get out, you can stun him again, and if Cho's Q gets interrupted, he's basically dead, unless there's like a full-on team fight and we win the team fight. But if he's getting caught, he's just dying to that. And then they have like Hunter's Mark, the Jaina spells and stuff, so it is very, very strong. And it's not only Cho'gall that dies, like the other heroes on the map also have a big problem if the ETC comes out of the bush and stuns you with the Tyrande Jaina follow-up. So and especially on Battlefield, it's also a map where you know where the opponent is because of the Immortals, the way they spawn. So yeah, it was a good draft, I think.
Yeah. And now I'm going to ask another question to Bakery, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, so feel free not to. You can say no comment if you want. Even with that draft, would you guys have felt confident going into your own Cho'gall? Because I don't see you guys playing much Cho'gall.
So we didn't play much Cho'gall, and every time we do, JPL complains that he gets a headache.
Okay.
But we would have picked it there. We play enough that we'd be confident picking it there.
Right. Okay. And then, kind of to wrap up the idea of Cho'gall at the moment, like, do you guys feel that Cho'gall, talent-wise, right now, is in a good place in terms of? I don't want to say like a balanced place, but things like the level 16 talent, the spell block is kind of almost infamous now because you can get so much soak with that. Like, do you think he's in a good spot right now in terms of his builds, guys?
before we get into whether he's in a good spot or not, I just want to say the Cho'gall builds that we see in competitive are bad. They are bad builds.
You think?
Like, I 100% think. I think Rune Gauntlet at level 4 is so much better than Rollback.
That's the faster charge, right? Wait, no, Rune Gauntlet's the empowered.
Your next basic attack does 75% more damage.
Yeah, okay, okay.
And so you go Fire Eater, you go Rune Gauntlet, you are so much more survivable. And you do so much more damage with that build than you do with what everyone else keeps taking. Like with his rollback and then like power surge maybe.
What else?
But the
what else
rollback is not back though. I think like if Cho rolls out the ball and you don't hit, it comes back, so you have a second chance to hit a good one. I think. Like it has quite some value actually, but I agree. The basic attack amplifier is also really good.
Doesn't that ball become more predictable though as time goes on when people get better?
Like at first, rollback was destroying people because it would go forward, they'd dodge it, and then they'd stand in the next one. But
no, but
like
Cho,
I was saying,
I mean, Cho is also moving. It's not only that comes back. Like Cho can adjust his movement, so like you have a higher chance to hit people. But I agree with you. I think the other talent is also strong.
You were saying something, Dread. At the same
I
time.
was just curious if there's anything. He said he said the build, and I figured that meant more than one talent. So what else is bad about Cho?
it's just 4 and 7. Like Molten Block's pretty forced, everyone takes it, and then Twilight Veil, as Kaelaris was saying, is the broken talent. I think that is what makes Cho'gall. Like when people discovered about that talent, that's what turned him from kind of not being played at all. And then when MOI started playing him with that talent, he suddenly became really hard to kill. So, like, outside of 4 and 7, I think the build's pretty good. But, like, I feel like other than 4 and 7, you're kind of locked into all of your other talents.
You say that, but, like, I think we had a discussion as well about Upheaval versus Hammer whilst we were there. We saw some Hammer, right? I think Hammer was taken a few times.
I think Hammer was still a more popular pick overall. I might be wrong about that. It was pretty close to 50-50. But I think Hammer might have gotten played more. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hasu, can you comment?
I think Upheaval is the better ultimate, but in some cases you cannot really use it because if you do, then you get like gusted, or if they have some decent disengage, then the Upheaval doesn't help. But I think it is the better ultimate. But sometimes you need to take the Hammer. That's what we figured out when we were practicing Cho'gall.
I can see a case for some Hammer, like now and then, but I think Upheaval was way better in large amount of situations.
Like 99.9% of situations.
99.9.
Without a doubt, the better ultimate. Finally, we're figuring it out. Sorry, that's like one of two talents in the game that I'm just like, when everybody's like, nah, dude, this is how you play it, and I just like, I do see value for like Hammer, like as Hasu was talking about with the with Gust, and there are direct counters that obviously make it to where Upheaval is not always going to be the most optimal situation, but. Almost every situation, I think Upheaval is a better. And now I'm going to say my second unpopular opinion. I think Twisting Nether is almost always the better ult as well. Almost always.
Whoa.
Holy.
All right, why?
Yeah.
So after the buff,
Because
or you mean even before?
You gain almost... Okay, so the ideal situation is you Upheaval somebody in and you decide to pop out your Shadow Bolt volley and you're like, pew, 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 and you're trying to hit anybody. All it takes is one proper sidestep or a perfect positioning Upheaval, which, by the way, should almost never happen. You have to get them to be sitting in front of you to tank the rest of the shots. Like, there's almost no situation to where you're going to gain the value out of that ultimate. So what are you going to use? Use it as a poke? Like, if you're going to Upheaval, you better be able to do that big dick damage. You better be able to. Otherwise, why'd you Upheaval? You're literally killing your team. You need the utility. You need the damage that is provided from Twisting Nether. Like, if you Upheaval in and you Shadow Bolt and you don't get that dream situation, you're like, well, that was fun, boys. Let's wait for my cooldowns to be back up.
I think the Upheaval needs to be, like, perfectly on the edge, right? For them to then be in front of you for the Shadow Bolt to hit. Otherwise, they get, like, dragged behind you in weird situations, right?
No. You just walk backwards. You just walk backwards, right? You Upheaval and then walk backwards and Shadow Bolt, and then they get pulled like in front of you.
Let's be honest, that's not ideal.
But then if you're using this, so then essentially you're isolating your upheaval. You're using it on one person. You have to be using it on one person, because if you're going to get that isolation, you're positioning yourself according to that single target. And if you anybody other than that, you're now losing value on your Shadow Ball volley. Like, it does an immense amount of damage, but all it takes is you burning it on the wrong target and them having a healer that can deal with it. And you're just like, well, now it's nothing. Whereas with upheaval and you take Twisting Nether, it just provides so much damage and utility to a team fight. It's very hard to deal with.
Okay.
It's so hard to deal with.
Counter argument. Is it worth going for Twisting Nether over committing to Shadow Bolt Volley and then being able to have the level 20 penetrating bot volley? Because it seems so strong.
Is when, I think that's a map dependent type situation. And also, like, obviously all this is comp dependent, and there's so many variables that me making these statements, everybody's going to be like, Dread said this is the only way to play. So I think it's really good. And if you get to a map where you know it's going to be inevitable, I can see the value coming out from that talent to make it a justified approach. I guess I have a bigger problem with, like, when people have compositions where they have the superior poke and you don't have the healing to deal with it, they still proceed to just sit there. Like, I think who was it? Who was it that picked Cho and Stitches on the same team? And they ended up going Pulverized and no upheaval?
Probably Navi.
Yeah, it's just like,
or,
when you draft,
I don't know though, but
I think you're right. Just when you draft Cho'gall, you almost always are running it in some teams running it as a solo tank versus a double tank. Like, you need to consider your initiation. And half the time that the upheaval was picked up, or Cho'gall was picked up, it was just like, they have no initiation. How are they ever going to win a team fight? Like, I was talking to you when it was happening. Like, look they have 4 people, 10% health, but they can't kill anyone because they can't force a fight. And then the Stitches didn't even take Fishing Hook. So then it was like, now they have even less initiation. It's such a big problem when drafting him that I think, not only as a hero and the viability of his other ults, it's just when you draft him, the upheaval almost innately becomes more valuable because you need it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember you actually getting very passionate about that when we were there. So if you guys actually on the desks thinks that Dread gets into the game when he's on camera, you should see him off camera.
I get tilted off camera. I'm just like, what is happening? Why is this going down? Oh, man.
The Vala picks.
Exactly.
Valor picks.
Actually, we can get to that later on, because Vala's in an odd shape right now, considering all the auto attack stuff.
Yeah, she's in a weird spot.
But anyway, moving on from Cho'gall, I think we've done Cho'gall to death. A quick point: highest win ratio of the tournament for Katowice was Thrall, 66% win ratio. Any surprises there? Do we think?
What was his involvement? Sorry.
It was 23 times picked, I think.
Yeah, it was high.
Okay. And
Wait, it was maybe 16.
I'm looking at it right now.
Win ratio was like 66%, I think.
Yeah, he was played a lot. Like, he was played a lot and he had a high win ratio. Thrall is a good hero, I don't know. Like, he has a very good laning phase.
Yeah.
He has super good initiation.
He has a 79% involvement, so a huge pick rate.
Yeah. Are we really surprised by that? Or is there anything outlying there that is just like, well, that's kind of cool?
I think for the European meta, it's not too big of a surprise, right? I think in NA he was picked less, but in Europe it's always a prime pick for a lot of teams that have strong melee assassin players.
That's an interesting noise. What was that?
Sounded like a dying whale. Just like...
It's the dog.
It's the dog, okay.
Oh, man. That was bad. I'm not surprised by it. I think Thrall has a lot of success. Specifically when looking at Europe, I think it makes a lot of sense to have such a high win rate there. I think a lot of it comes down to kind of the healers that you guys like to pick are very not so much susceptible to Thrall, but it's like it's both of you guys put, like, Thrall puts like the healers that are common, like Karazim and Solo Tassadar, into a situation where a Thrall ends up applying the damage and starting a team fight in the way that he wants. He will always walk away with a winning situation. And if the support does it vice versa, they'll always be in a winning situation. So it's essentially who gets to start the fight better, I feel like, because very few sustain-oriented kind of healers come out from Europe. So I think that makes more sense. I like I like that Thrall got that high of a pick rate and involvement. It was something that I think was expected moving into this tournament. But it's interesting to see he had such a high pick and win rate when he's almost neglected, if you will, when it comes to like Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually the biggest stat differential when looking at NA, EU, and Korea before I got to Europe, was actually that Thrall's involvement in both NA and Europe is just insane. And his win rate's pretty good, but in Korea, almost nothing. It's almost like Uther in the other two regions, is where Uther gets a lot of play, but almost none in the other two.
We're going to get on to Zul later on, guys, and that's something that I kind of want to cross over with, because obviously we're seeing a lot of things like Thrall doing very, very well, and eventually we'll get into Zul, which is like potentially going to kill off a lot of these like melee assassins positions in the meta. We'll get onto that later on. I just want to kind of continue focusing on what we're seeing from the European regional at the moment. This Tassadar solo role that we've got going on in Europe right now. Bakery, you can defend your solo Tassadar role.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
That wasn't
I hate
defending
playing
it. That's...
I hate playing with it. I hate the hero. It's so boring. Like, I wish it wasn't a thing. But Tassadar provides so much control for the early and mid game, and he provides so much wave clear, and he provides so much skirmish power that it's impossible to justify not picking him if you cannot get Veigar or Monk, and they do not have poke damage, or a high amount of damage that you will need to heal.
Alright, that wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Thanks, Bakery. Dread, your thoughts on Tassadar as the solo support here? Because, I mean, what Baker brings up is cool, but...
He put it exactly how I would word it once he put in the very end, where it's like, as long as they don't have the high amount of damage, I 100% agree. He is a really powerful hero. It's just... The only major difference between NA and EU is typically, I would argue, that we kind of approach the late game a lot different, especially if we were facing a solo Tassadar support. But other than that, I agree. I think he's definitely got a spot. I just think he's... Like, when Europe drafts Tassadar in the first phase, before the second ban phase, you just go, okay, there's no other supports. And that's, like, crazy for me to think that you guys... I think I agree with Bakery on all fronts, but I think the fact that you guys are willing to draft him that early and then not consider a second support is a sign of weakness within the draft when it comes to Europe. I think it's articulating too much for how weak of a hero and how easily abused he can be when it comes to the later half of the game.
Hasu, on My Insanity, you guys do run Tassadar in some of your comps, but you guys were predominantly running double support Tassadar. Do you think he can sit on his own, or do you think that the double support's the way?
Actually, we don't like solo Tassadar that much. I think there are some issues in late game, and also even in early mid game. If they have a lot of stuns, you don't have cleanse, so whoever gets stunned might just die. Like, yes, his Q is pretty good against burst, but if you have like 2 or 3 stuns and you chain them, like, it doesn't matter. If you heal them for a certain amount, they will just die because they cannot move out anymore. So, like, I think we didn't play that much Tassadar that tournament. We were picking Tyrande a lot with the second support.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a second. The puppy is going wild. And
we can hear, don't worry.
So with Tyrande, we figured that out very late in the boot camp, and it was actually pretty good. Like, we liked it, and it was a key to our success, I believe, in Katowice, because it was a surprise for the other teams as well.
Okay. Don't worry, by the way, the puppy can be the 5th member of the podcast. I'm okay with. We were being what's the word? No, I can't remember. Anyway, do you think it will continue to linger? Do you think we'll see solo support Tassadar in Korea, for example?
Especially on maps like Tune the Spider Queen, we'll definitely still see it. Like, if they don't have the Greymane or Lunara, or picks like it, and you need the wave clear, then he's so good. He's a really, really strong pick. But as much as I hate the style, like, I still think we'll see him a lot. And I think, honestly, other reasons to adapt to it more. Like, at first, EU was really resistant to play it, but once we saw how much control it gave over objectives and over lanes, like, we just couldn't not pick it in these scenarios.
Makes sense. Any more to add, guys, on how we think Tassadar, if we'll see it at Korea, or...?
I think we'll see it. I just don't think we'll see it as much. And I especially, I think it's going to see high success versus certain regions. But I think when it comes to like the top of the top, I don't think it'll be a dominant pick. I think it will definitely see play though.
Fair play, fair play. Just so people in the chat know as well, guys. Firstly, 500 viewer hype, that's great. And also, if you tweet at us with the hashtag State of the Nexus, anybody on the cast today, you can be in with a chance, as I say, to get yourself a Cloud9 mount code. And also, maybe we should kind of give away some Crypt King Cassadars as well, because we all have like 700 of them. So maybe we should do that as well later on. So we'll figure that out towards the later end of the show, guys. So thank you very much. Do we have any more points that we wanted to bring up for Katowice, guys?
I think something that we did a lot and no other team really did was the Zeratul, which we actually stole from NA, obviously, as Dad would love to tell you.
How dare you?
But yeah, I just want to say quickly, I feel like teams just did not respect Zeratul in the slightest, and they really should have. And when we started playing it, and we started getting really nice compositions with it, other teams started trying to adapt, but it was kind of too late. So I think there was a definite oversight in the preparation.
Is this because you believe it, or Dread threatened your life before the tournament?
Dread called me on Skype. He said, if you guys don't pick up Zeratul right now, I will kill you all. And I believed him. So
yeah.
Zeratul is super strong, and I think Wubby played amazing Zeratul. So yeah, definitely
sense.
Underrated in Europe. I think we just made in Mindcenti we made the decision we ignore him because we tried to play him a bit. It didn't work too well, and also there were not many scrims where people drafted him. So we. Like I said, it might be a risk if we don't be prepared, but we just said, okay, we're gonna ignore him and hope we get through.
So
I think Zeratul will be one of the highest contested heroes of Worlds.
Yeah,
I don't think he's there yet, but he will be. He will now that Europe is kind of getting a taste of it. I know where NA sits on it. Korea used to love it, and even China has seen moments of it. Well, I think. Everybody kind of pulled away after his nerfs, but I think slowly but surely the world's going back to guys, he's actually still just terrifying.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be one of the highest contested heroes of all of Worlds.
The funny thing is that when I look at the Korean draft, there's not even that much of him at the moment there at all, right? You see him in 1 or 2 games, but beyond that, he doesn't really exist too much there. So is NA really on point with this? Is this one of the things that NA is doing right, Dread?
I think we are blowing it out of proportion. I think we prioritize it too highly, but I do think we are the closest to accurately prioritizing him.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So
I'd agree with that, yeah.
So do you think that NA goes in with a significant advantage there into Worlds? Because
No.
it can be a game changer, or...
There's so many variables that go into Worlds. I think I don't think Zeratul is a big enough of one to justify them having the advantage by any means. I do when it comes to Zeratul specifically. Yeah, is it big enough that I can be because we play Zeratul, NA is going to win Worlds? No.
No. Indeed.
All the regions can play Mean Zeratul. I mean, it's been shown across the board through the past 2 years of competitive. So
yeah, strong stuff for sure. Worlds is going to be interesting, I'll tell you that. I mean, the way we saw the meta develop in BlizzCon, and then everyone suddenly found out that Tyrael was such an impactful hero in the first weekend, and then carried over, and you guys were able to deal with it was cool, but the fact that Worlds has only got 3, 4, 5 days for all the teams to adapt to one another, it's going to be very, very chaotic, I feel, in the games, don't you believe?
I think that's Europe's biggest advantage.
You think Europe's biggest advantage?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it is. I think it's Europe's biggest advantage because the only way Europe, I think, walks away with a win is if they find the Tyrael God comp that nobody knows how to deal with and they don't show it to anybody. I'll say it over and over again. The only reason I don't think Europe stood a chance at winning Worlds is because they walked in with one comp that was almost unbeatable, and then they showed everybody, and then they proceeded to draft it and now play them. I mean, I definitely think Europe is a really strong region. I think comparative like to the teams, like I was honestly like Bakery was even like, how do you think us versus like I just feel like Cloud9 is a very powerful team when it comes to at least these two regions. I don't know on comparing to Korea and China, it's a little bit different, but like you guys walked into Worlds last year with a huge advantage, and then you showed everybody your strategy. And Europe loves to pick on one strategy and then just like hone on it until it's like perfect, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, and then you watch Cloud9 ban Tyrael and go, "What are you gonna do? Like, just what are you actually gonna do?" That's all they said. Like, and so I think that's something that short amount of time is Europe's biggest advantage.
Yeah, adding on to what Dredd said, I'm pretty sure that the European teams were the strongest two coming into the event, like in opening week.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd have been drafting properly against C9 in the first series, then I'm pretty sure it would have been a 2-0. There was also some really awful play, but we weren't picking Tyrael deliberately. And we weren't playing the kind of comps that we'd practiced deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the week break, every other team at the tournament just started playing full EU meta. Like, no joke. It was literally 8 European teams by the time we got to the actual event. And so, there only being 3 days, it's pretty good. I like it.
How about you, Hasu? I mean, you weren't at BlizzCon before, sorry, like, but going forwards into this one, like, do you think EU is in a good spot?
I mean, as I said, if we find a really good draft, and I mean, Splendor was there last year at BlizzCon, so he knows that stuff, and he's a very good drafter. So, I mean, I don't know actually. It will be hard. Like we don't have that much competition between NA, Europe, and Korea. Mm-hmm. So every time it kicks off, it's a big surprise, like who's on top and who's not. So, I mean, we will all give our best, but I think Europe is a strong region for sure. So. Looking forward to it.
All right, well, to wrap up Europe Katowice, we now move on to our second section, which is ominously titled Katowice MVPs, and we already ran into a bit of a roadblock. Sorry, guys. We already ran into a little bit of a roadblock. Now, we had a category for each role as to what we were going to kind of categorize: best warrior, best assassin, best flex. However, when we started thinking about this, a lot of those members were on the same team, and we didn't really want to seem too biased about this. But now we have Dreadnought and HasuObs here, so we can actually kind of flush this out a little bit more. So we're going to start, guys, with best warrior at the tournament. Bakery, you can begin, and then our guys, Dreadnought and Hasu, can think about this a little further. Go on, Bakery.
So I have 2 players in mind. Actually, before I get into those 2 players, I just want to say, I believe the warrior that came into the tournament with the most knowledge, the best mechanical skill, and the best chance of being an MVP is Alex the Pro G.
Okay.
However, he did not play well at the event, and he obviously only had 6 games. So I'm not considering him because he was really disappointing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
My other 2, I'm going to nominate my teammate, JPL. I think he had a really solid tournament. He played really well. He had some nice plays, and his stitches in particular was really top-notch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to nominate BKB, and I don't mean to flame in any way, but in the past, I've always thought BKB is a middle-of-the-pack tank. He's good. He doesn't make mistakes, but he's never done anything amazing. But this tournament, he played like a monster. He was a top tank at this tournament. I think he played really well.
Okay. How about you guys?
I would have to go with BKB as well. I do agree. I know this is lame to agree. I agree with both of his statements. I think the stitches for JPL was something that really stood out. He was the only stitches player who kind of felt like he stood out of the pack and when it came to the entire event. And then I do think that BKB showed to be far stronger at this event than he has almost on any event that I've seen him play at in the past.
Hasu?
I don't know, actually. It's hard for me to judge who's the best, but I think JPL had a really good tournament. I also think BKB played well. I think Bloomby and our team played pretty well as a warrior as well. So, but if I have to credit the most, I would say JPL.
Okay. And my vote going into this at the beginning was BKB. So, congratulations, BKB. Here's a mobile phone. Well done. You have been crowned our you have been crowned our tank for this one. All right, moving on down the list. Best assassin. Bakery, you want to start with this one? Because I know where you're gonna go.
I mean, for me, there's only one assassin that I'd like to argue for, and I really hate to do it as well. But it's got to be Snitch. I think he played amazing Zagara. His grade main was really good. Just, I don't remember him making any costly mistakes. Like he just had a great tournament, and yeah, like I say, I hate to do it, but he's the best for me.
Okay, Dread, want to follow that up, mate?
I don't disagree, but I think that it was overhyped.
Ah.
That was my statement I said before. I think Stitch probably played as one of the best. There wasn't even that many outstanding, I guess, plays when it came to most of the DPS. I'm trying to think. I would say Mene, right? Am I saying that? Or the Li Ming, right? Mene's Li Ming. Who there was a Li Ming that was insane. That I would put.
Was it Lunan?
Mene's Li Ming is
maybe it was me.
Only counter argument I would put it was his Li Ming was really well done, and I think I would put if anybody competes, I would put him.
There was somebody at the tournament from the casters that was really on Neon. Yeah, Neon's.
If you mean the Russian, yeah.
Yeah.
Neon.
I was getting mixed up between Lunan and Neon, but Neon looked really on point on Li Ming as well, right?
Yeah. It might have been Neon too. It might have been Neon.
I think it was because we only saw Mene on Li Ming like once or twice. It was Neon.
Yeah. It was Neon. Then. I give it to him. His Li Ming was impressive.
Yeah. How about you, HasuObs? Are you going to pick yourself or?
I give it to Darkmok.
Darkmok?
Yes.
Justifications?
Best melee assassin. Most aggressive. He's killing people. I like it.
He's killing people you like. Yeah, I like this. I like this. I guess I need to kind of think who's taking that. The thing is that actually now that Dread mentioned it, I actually really liked Neon and his Li Ming.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he played very, very well. So
he also played a good Vala. He played Li Ming and Vala the most, I believe, and he also had a good Vala.
And actually, they were the only team that really made Vala work properly, I believe. Beyond there was.
Wait, what the?
Shut up, you! Like what? One game?
We also played one game.
Okay. Yeah. No, it was Neon definitely played it like more than you guys and was really, really good. All right, congratulations to Neon. He's probably not watching, but there you go. I'm liking this because we've already navigated away from giving Dignitas all the awards. Yeah. So we're on to Best Flex. And Bakery, actually, take it away, I guess.
It's Wubby. It's just Wubby.
It's just Wubby.
It's just Wubby. His Zerso was amazing. His Thor was pretty okay, other than some kind of whiff sunderings. But yeah, I mean, I don't think any other flex turned up too much. Like Eternal was really good, as we know. Like Loa was really good, but he didn't have a great tournament.
To be fair to one of those sunderings, I think they got cleansed, right? Like on one or two of the targets, if I can recall. Or was those different games?
Yeah. The one I was referring to is he missed it following up a Maul, but we were 3 levels ahead in the Navi game anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Oh yeah, the one that kind of connected a second before the Maul finished.
It did the damage, but they were still unstoppable coming out of the Maul, so it didn't knock them.
Right. I remember. Any other choices for flex, guys? Dread, Hasu?
I actually agree with this one across the board. I feel like when it came to the only other person I would put in argument is just for diversity would be like maybe a Thero for just whipping out the Murky, but like I don't know if I would like really be like that was so impressive that it was deserving of first. I guess I feel like maybe it's because the Zeratul, like implementing the Zeratul, that kind of stole my heart there. But I feel like he definitely played better on the flex role than everyone else there. So.
Actually, on Thero's side, I guess as well, we got to see his Tyrael, which was nice. That was fun for that one game. But Hasu, any thoughts on this?
No, I think Wubby had a good tournament. From all the heroes he played, I think the only one I didn't like too much was his Tyrael. But maybe that was a draft issue as well when he had to play it.
Yeah.
And
Definitely a draft issue.
yeah,
Definitely a draft issue.
other than that,
I would agree. I think Wobby wins this award for best flex. Like, he's such a kind of quiet and sullen guy when you actually like see him in real life. Does that reflect in game bakery, like, or like when he's like communicating with the team? How is it?
When things are going well in game, Wubby is very loud.
Okay, really?
He normally isn't, like in scrims he wasn't, and this is my first tournament with him, and we get a kill and he's just screaming nice, and then he's screaming, push this wave, take that camp, let's push like middle, stuff like that. It was so passively funny. I was just laughing to myself while playing the game.
Okay.
Like to see such a difference, but no, yeah, he was actually super loud at the tournament.
So
He's
basically,
normally pretty quiet.
So Wobby is basically a hero's machine. Like that's all he knows in his mind. That's impressive. I didn't even realize he was loud during games. But all right, we have moving on. Who do we have? Best support. I'm looking forward to this one. All right. Do we even let Bakery start with this one?
I don't think so.
All right, Dread. It's
Just
you.
let him start with it. Just who is the best support, Bakery? tell us, Bakery.
There's
Who is the
no way
best?
this can go well for me.
All right, who do you think was the next to fall below your feet? Sadly, at their knees. Please let them
Wow.
one day evolve to become Bakery. Who was it?
there is
No one.
What?
None.
Is he like looking at lists? What is he doing?
I think so.
Okay.
He's
I'm looking at
assimilating
the list.
information.
I'm not finding anything.
Oh Jesus!
Wait. Okay, I'd say Splendor had Splendor played 99% of the tournament perfect, and there were two huge mistakes in the Virtus Pro semi-final series, which basically cost them the game.
Yeah, one cost us the game. That's true. With a divine shield.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember that. So we're just gonna have to pick you. Is that it, Bakery? Like, because the thing is that you even said on your way back with trophy in hand. Yeah, I didn't win this tournament. It was like the team around me. You didn't make any spectacular plays.
My exact quote was that I was the worst player in this tournament. I averaged less than 1 death per game. I missed 1 palm the entire tournament and didn't make any mistakes that I can remember.
Okay.
And I was the worst player on my team. Is what I said.
Is that fair to say, Dread? Do you think?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't make mistakes.
Okay.
That's half the battle. The next one's making the play, right? Like, so I mean,
I did have that one really sick force wall, like the Tomb game versus Fnatic, where every single bow I force walled it, and they didn't get the pick.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And there's one specifically where I bowled him, and it killed the Chen, saved the Wubby, and then won the team fight for us.
Well played, Bakery. Congratulations.
I think it was the only support who made any play that stood out to me was Piquete. But it was like 2 to 3 times it was like a cleanse or decision making from him, which we've already talked about how he's debatably like 1 or 2 of like the best supports in EU. So I mean, it's not like it's surprising. His team obviously didn't do too hot, so he kind of didn't look like a shining star. But there were a couple of moments from him where I was like, I wasn't casting the games, but who I was talking to, I was like, actually, that was really well done. Like, and he made a couple of standout plays. So just for the sake of removing the circle jerk away from Bakery, I will say Grand Piquete.
Okay, congratulations, Grand Paquette. We could have easily just said here, wait a minute, we could have stepped back and been like, Dreadnought, best support of the tournament, because he was there.
Yes! Dread's the best support of the tournament.
There you go. Congratulations, Dread. We're not giving it to Bakery 100%. And then we have, finally... Oh, okay, so there's... Bakery, you've put in here most improved, then MVP.
Yeah.
So, okay, in most improved, let's make a case for your most improved.
Well, this is actually a category that I wanted specifically to say that BKB went from being like, kind of top 4-ish to like being one of the best tanks at the tournament, like top 2 tanks at the tournament.
Okay.
And so, yeah, There you go. I said it.
So you decided a category for one person because...
Well, no. I think most improved is a valuable award anyway. And just because I wanted specifically to give an award to BKB, that doesn't mean there weren't more candidates that the other two panelists here can come up with in this time.
Okay. So Dredd and Hasu have to chip in.
Most improved. Actually, I don't know.
Tough one?
I know that Lunan, for example, also surprised me. I didn't expect him to play such a good support.
I
Okay.
agree with that actually. Lunan was really pretty good at this tournament.
Who was?
Lunan.
Lunan.
Oh, okay. No. Pick a game is how I would approach that. I agree. It just depends on the game.
Right, okay. So, 2/5 of Virtus Pro get this award, is that what you're saying? Kind of. No?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think BKB and Lunar are both like really valid when it comes to this. I was trying to think. There was somebody else. I want to say it was off Fnatic. I didn't want to say Athero because obviously he was a great player and kind of trying to adjust. But I think maybe it was going to be Smexy or Quack. I would also kind of consider, but at the same time, it's not like they've made that drastic of a shift as those two players. Because I feel like Lunar, you literally could see him adjust in the middle of a tournament, and BKB I think just stepped up from the beginning, and both of those were like really notable. So I would
makes
say
sense.
those two.
All right, cool. And then finally, we go to our MVP of the tournament, most valuable player. And this one feels kind of hard. It's very, very difficult to really pick someone who really stood out. I have a name in mind, but why don't you give us your start, Bakery?
Oh, I don't know. This is a hard category.
You were the one that made this category.
It makes sense. You gotta have the MVP of the tournament.
All right, come on. Who do you think? Do you want me to say mine?
And my nominees are Wubby and Snitch.
Boys, up to the top.
Can I just do the entire team of Mind's Zanity? Because they were, like, honestly, in my opinion, expected to be bottom 4 and then walk away going to Korea. So they're the MVP of this entire tournament.
That's a good shout. Hasu?
Thank you. One MVP, I think Wubby.
I agree with everybody, damn it. Because I wanted to pick Wubby initially, but then Dredd brought up the whole of my insanity, and I'm like, actually, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
let's go with my insanity then.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
go with that.
No biases. No biases.
Yeah, no.
All right, congratulations, HasuObs. You win 1/5 of a trophy. I'm impressed.
Feels good.
Feels good. Feels good. All right, we are moving on, boys. We have done our Katowice MVPs, and now we get to talk about Zul. Zul. Okay, so just right out of the gate, how many of you guys have played him? Like a lot since getting back.
I want to say a lot, but I've gotten to get some games into him, lucky enough.
Okay, Hasu.
I didn't yet.
No, Bakery.
I mean, I don't even own the hero. My teammates have played a ton of him. I've played against him a lot, but we haven't actually scrimmed yet.
Right.
None of Europe has scrimmed yet.
Yeah,
we
that's true.
start possibly tomorrow or definitely on Monday for most teams.
Okay, so let me start with. Oh, Dredd's gone for a moment.
Uh-oh. I vanished?
Uh-oh, you
Hello?
finished.
Red?
I'm back?
Oh, he's almost back. There he is. Dr. Dredd's in the hat. All right.
I don't
okay,
know.
never mind.
I don't know what just happened.
I don't know, man. So, people are touting him as, like, the melee killer. People are saying that he's going to shake up the meta and stuff like that. People are saying first pick, first ban. What do we think about him? Is he really going to have this much impact on the meta in the current state that he is in?
Who's going to say that first?
He's just broken. He's just straight up broken. That hero is nowhere close to balanced right now. He's not a melee killer. He's an entire team killer, 1v5.
No, yeah. He's literally a jack of all trades.
He also kills minions very fast
Oh,
and converts them to your side.
he has a non-missable 2-second CC onto a target. He has more wave clear than half the heroes in the game do. He has sustain. He has a mechanic that has literally never existed before with the mortal.
Mortal wounds.
Grievous wounds, mortal wounds.
Multiple wounds.
And then What else does he have provided to his kit? He has single target burst. He has also vulnerability.
The full attack slows.
Yes.
He has evasion. He has a stone skin, and it can be utilized to do multiple things. He has a auto attack speed debuff, and that can actually be spec'd into even more severely. So it's like they were just like, what is some stuff that like every hero has that we really like? And they're like, what if we all gave it to one hero? And then they were like, Zul.
He's literally like 4 attack range away from being the perfect hero.
4 attack range. Just make him throw his scythes. Who cares? Like one of them, which he does. So in that vein, do we think they gave him too much in terms of utility and kind of problem solving here?
They gave him a bit of everything, and the numbers are too high on everything. So yeah, right now for sure. Like we need to wait for the first nerf, I think, to really judge how good he will be. But
yeah,
his kit is good for sure, I think. Or maybe if he gets nerfed, it's hard to say actually. But I think he will be good anyways.
I think he'll be good no matter what. I think one thing that Blizzard really underestimates when considering producing a hero and the relevance on the competitive level is just being able to lane. Because everybody makes this joke that Heroes is a game where laning doesn't matter, but at the professional level, laning matchups are absolutely crucial. And that is half the reason Thrall is the dominant hero that he is his laning presence. It's just that he will take you and go, I will wreck you. I don't care I will take you. And he takes every single person, and then he makes, on certain maps where laning is absurdly dominant, it just becomes a very, very crucial thing to the game. And Zul is another hero that just because of his laning ability to lane alone, I don't know how the matchups work exactly because I haven't gotten to test them all or see them. Like him versus Thrall versus him versus Zag, things like that. I know he does pretty well into Zag because he doesn't get a sustain till late, so that might be a problem with him. But just if he have good laning phase, they're relevant in the competitive scene for the most part. That's how strong that is. Now give them a 2-second CC, and they're gonna see play.
One criticism I kind of have going forwards with Zul is that Mortal Strike, the effect that Mortal Wound has on the game, is something that's super, super scary, I think, in the current meta as it stands, or just in the current game as it stands. Is something even like the Mortal Strike effect of 75%, mind you, and if you talent into all the sides, is this something that is just beyond crazy, or is this something that can have its place? Because right now it seems really scary.
I should be last on this because I'm gonna cry if I have to respond to this. Like,
okay. So as I said on Town Hall, the implementation of it is the worst for me.
Okay.
So my issue with it is you cannot use it to react. Like you cannot see an ancestral, and you can't use it to react. They've attached it to the Q, but it does not change the way that you use your Q. So this is the most boring implementation of the talent that they could have done. Like, there's no way to make that implementation more boring. And it's also 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So you see someone's getting caught, you put Mortal Wound on them, and then the healer can't do anything. It can't get cleansed, like... It's not dodgeable if they're stunned, and because it's not an instant ability, it's not like you can use it with an intent to deny the healing, because they need to be stunned for it to hit.
So I listened to your reasoning on Town Hall Heroes, but my argument would be is if someone's going to be, or is the target for Ancestral Heal, for example, wouldn't you have already scythed them anyway? And if you talented into it, you're going to be on a 4-second cooldown, and it's a 4-second uptime to the point where it's always going to be affecting them throughout this, and they will be affected anyway.
Well, that's my issue, is you just use it on them for damage, because that's your main damage ability.
Yeah.
So you have 100% uptime on the Mortal Strike anyway, so you're not reacting to the Ancestral, you're not skillfully denying it, you're just accidentally denying it, because you have to have it up 100% uptime anyway.
So you're haphazardly, it's just haphazardly being thrown in, it's just there.
Yeah.
You call the target, everyone focuses it, and then 75% healing reduction. It probably just dies, unless it can blink out or flash out.
At level
Like
20, is there any reason to take anything other than Mortal Wound right now in competitive?
I haven't gotten to play the hero enough to justify saying no to that, but I'm going to say probably not. Like, probably not, but I'm not that confident in it.
Because the thing is that Bone Spear as well at level 20 is a cool idea, especially to kind of go with the Necromancer theme. People have messed around with it and seen the numbers, and it's like no mana, several hundred damage or whatever, and it can do damage, but surely the Mortal Wound effect is just too strong.
It is
Probably,
scary.
yes. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing: is in Hero League, like, it's hard to get the value for Mortal Wound because it's barely ever that people actually focus down targets properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there is no voice comms and everybody has their own idea of how to play, especially with the matchmaking. That's another topic entirely. So Bone Spear is probably better for Hero League, in some situations at least. But in competitive, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't just go Mortal Wound and kill a target for free.
Yeah.
It's the mages that I'm the only one that I'm considering, and it's only I haven't even gotten to look at it.
Oh, the one where it, like,
I
spawns
don't
things
think
from
Poison
death.
Nova. Yeah, I don't think Poison Nova has anything. It's when
But
a nearby
the
hero dies, a frost mage appears from their corpse and will fight for you. Increases the slow to 50%.
doesn't sound too good. Like if you kill
Yeah,
one, you
I don't-
probably win the fight.
It's a win.
Yeah,
harder.
it's like it's
Uh,
essentially taking a winning fight and winning it harder.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
really worth in most situations. So I would agree. I think probably Mortal Wound, and I do understand. I agree with like the solo queue statement, and the relevance in solo queue. My biggest problem with Mortal Wound is that we were told it would never be implemented,
Right.
and that it is, and that's one of the coolest things that's happening right now with heroes, but like one of the most terrifying at the same time. Mortal Wound being implemented shows that Blizzard is finally kind of breaking from their we're gonna make this brand new kind of like innovative our own ideas like game, right? Like the innovation is why we're all here and it makes like a really great game, but at the same time Blizzard seems to be a little bit too stubborn to be able to give up when they don't have the best new idea right away, right? And they need to be taking from other people and then adjusting on it accordingly, but implementing the standard, if you will, as soon as possible. And I feel like I think Mortal Wound, this is like a step in the right direction of showing them kind of breaking from we're going to be this new company, but I don't like much of what Bakery said. I hate how they implemented it. I think it's terrible. It's not skill based. It's absurdly powerful. It takes away from the idea that supports are relevant in this game compared to others, which is like a really bad approach. I think you just essentially like remove a role from the like it's like making supports be able to press a button to where like it would literally be the equivalent of saying that a support now can give a 75% of a shield, like a D shield, to everybody. Every support had the opportunity to do that. It was like, I throw this out, and then you take 75% less damage. You would just be like, okay, that's stupid. But it's like, I don't know. I just think it's a bad approach to kind of the game overall, but I like that it shows that Blizzard's kind of adjusting.
Do you think 75% is too much? If they implemented it in a way where it was like maybe 40% less or 30% less, do you think 75% is insane in a number?
To balance this skill, you might need to go as low as 40%. But like we don't care about the balance, or at least I don't care about the balance when I'm saying these things. Like, sure, the talent may be not even the best one on that tier, but I don't care if it's the best one on that tier because it's so badly designed that like that's my real issue with it. Like,
yeah, no, I agree.
You want to see the skill and the talents. You want to see like the skill cap being heightened a little bit with those kinds of things.
Yeah. If you told me you could implement something to where it's like you took a snap reaction, you did this one really cool play, and it was like God tier, but you made it to where your opponent couldn't heal somebody and you lock in a kill, like that's awesome. But when you make it so, it's essentially they've made a more dulled down version of the original cleanse, and then their adjustment to it is probably going to be removing it from this realm and just making it kind of almost not useful, and then slowly implementing it back to its original version. like they did with cleanse. Like that's kind of how I view it across the board. And like the funny thing is like they asked like at NA regionals of last year what are things that they would like our approach to the game and everything else, and how they've adjusted cleanse. That was one of the first things everybody said is like, don't kill the cleanse. Cleanse is good for the game.
Right.
Just make it more skillful. And I feel like this is going to be the exact same situation, but I'm afraid they're going to overreact to it as well and just be like, well, now it's like just this terribly applied mechanic.
Do you think if they so this is going well into the kind of theorizing world here. Do you think if they put it on like Bone Spear, increase Bone Spear's cooldown to like 40 seconds or so, but then made Bone Spear very, very fast, like kind of Thornwood's Vines fast? Do you think that it could have its place then? Because you could, in theory, then see something like an Ancestral or a Palm about to go off, and then use it in that way. Do you think that would be something that would remedy kind of and make you guys a bit happier?
I think it's a step in the right direction. I think there's a lot of things that would have to be tweaked for that. I think allowing it to, I don't know if this is the case. I don't think it is. I think allowing it to be cleansed is crucial.
Okay.
I think they should implement a system to where you can cleanse it. Other than that, I think that would be a step in the right